We continue now at the top of Daf Tazayin Amud Aleph and Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 16a. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing the question of Ilfa. Ilfa asked, when it comes to Yadayim, when it comes to hands, so are they Tahorin Lechatzoin? Can they become pure halfway? And the Gemara wanted to know what exactly the question was. And the Gemara suggested on the previous summit that the question is, let's say the person washes half of the hand, then dries it, then washes the other half. Is that going to be a good Natilas Yadayim? Rashi explained over there that the full hand would really be until the joints, until the knuckles. That's Rashi's sheet on the previous summit. And so the question is, if you do halfway to the knuckles, you dry it, and then you do the other half, is that a good Natilas Yadayim or not? But the Gemara said the answer to that question would be obvious. That would not be a good Natilas Yadayim. And so the Gemara suggested, well, the case is he did half of the hand, then he dried it, but he didn't fully dry it. It's still moist. Then he did the other half of the hand. That was the question of Ilfa. But now the Gemara brings a Mishnah in Taharos that says that shouldn't make a difference either. The fact that it's moist should not matter. The Mishnah says, Hanitzak v'akatveris u'mashketofach. Let's say you're pouring water, or it's running down a slant, running down a mountain, or mashketofach means you have moisture. Again, exactly our case. Eino chibur, that's not considered to be a connection. Lo l'tumah v'lo l'tahara, it's not considered to be a connection for tumah or for tahara. Rashi explains, Hanitzak kiloach, again you're pouring it, v'akatveris har meshupa shemadrona mechuded harbe, it's going down a slanted mountain. Eino chibur l'tumah, so it's not a connection in terms of tumah. What does that mean? Kigon hamara miklitar l'klitame v'nitzak hakiloch mechaber mashke shnei hakelim. Let's say you're pouring from a pure vessel to an impure vessel, so now you're pouring from above down to the lower vessel. Eino chibur l'tame mashke al yonim, that's not going to be considered a connection in order to make the upper liquid, in order to make that tameh. Again, let's say it's pouring down something that's slanted, and so the bottom one is connected to tumah. Again, it's going downward, so that flow downward is not going to make the upper liquid, it's not going to make it tameh. Let's say you have two pools of water, and then one of them is tameh, one's torah, then you have an area that's moist, that's connecting them. That's not going to be considered a connection in order to make that which was pure, in order to make it impure. And you can say for tahara also, let's say you have mikvos, let's say you have two mikvos, neither one is large enough, neither one has 40 sa, and you're trying to connect the two, either by pouring, or it's going down a slant, or you have a moist surface. So in such a situation, eino chibur, that's not considered to be a connection. So you see the mashketofach doesn't create a connection, so it shouldn't be good for natilas yadayim either. It should be obvious, and so therefore we're back to our question in terms of what was Ilfa's question. And so the Gemara says, lo no tzricha, it's needed, meaning Ilfa's question was needed in the following case, di'ika tofach latfiach, that not only is it moist, it's moist enough to make something else moist. So that's a question. Rashi says, tofach latfiach sheyesh mashka harbe, shem tofach bo yochel latfiach b'makom acher. It was so moist that if you would touch it, it would make something else moist. That was the question in terms of natilas yadayim. Again, he did half of his hand, dried it, but it's tofach latfiach, then he did the other half. But the Gemara says, hanami tanina, that also was learned in a brayso as follows, tofach latfiach chibur. It says on the contrary, by tofach latfiach, it is a connection. And so therefore we should know that it is considered a good natilas yadayim. But the Gemara says to that, dilmu le'inyan mikvos. Maybe when we're saying that tofach latfiach is a connection, maybe that was only a halacha in terms of mikvos of Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe it's following the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, mikvah sheyesh bo arboim sa mechuvanos. Let's say you have a mikvah with exactly 40 sa. Yardu shnayim v'tavlu, and two people go in there to immerse. But they go in one after the other. Rishon Natar Vasheni Tami. So the first person is pure because he went into a mikveh which was the right size, the right amount of water, 40 sa. But the second person is Tami because we assume that the mikveh lost some of its water from the first person going in and out. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Hayu raglav shel rishon nogos b'mayim." If the feet of the first person are still touching the water, af hasheni tar. So then even the second person will be pure. We're going to apply a principle called good achis. The water that's on that first person's body, we look at it halachically as if it's lowered into the mikveh, and so therefore the second person can become pure. And maybe that's what we mean when we talk about tofach latzviach being a chibur. We're just talking about that halacha of Rabbi Yehuda. And Rashi explains, Chibur l'tumah l'tahara v'kasalka daitach du'adin l'natila. Right now we think it's a connection for tumah and tahara, and the same would be true by natilas yadayim. The chashav kiman David b'hadei yadad, it's considered like it's all together. But the Gemara says, Dil mahadeh katani chibur, maybe when we're saying it's a connection, le'inyan mikvos come of Rabbi Yehuda, he mishum good achis. Maybe that's really halacha of Rabbi Yehuda, it has to do with good achis, umiu le'inyan natila, but maybe it could be by natila. Mibayan, it's still a question. You have a natila kitikun l'chatzayin olo, is it considered a natilas yadayim if you do again halfway or not? Ve'en rayas chibur mikvos raya lekan. You can't bring a proof from the fact that we make a connection by mikvos to over here. The anon la mishum chibur miboilan. We're not asking in terms of chibur, in terms of the halachas of connecting mikvos, and so therefore again we are back to a question when it comes to this case. And the Gemara continues. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Harayamru habarosho verubo b'mayim she'uven. The halacha is that if somebody immerses his head and the majority of his body in drawn water, v'tar, let's say you have a tahar person, a person who's pure, shenaflu al rosho ve'al rubo shlosha lugan mayim she'uven, and it falls on his head and the majority of his body 3 lug of mayim she'uven of drawn water. So the halacha is tameh. The halacha is in that situation the individual is tameh. And so the question is, boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, Chetzio b'biyah v'chetzio b'nefila mai, what if half would be immersed and half the water would fall on him? What would be the halacha? And to that the Gemara says, Teiku. The Gemara leaves it as a question. And Rashi explains, Habar rosho v'rubo kishu tahar, the person is pure and he immerses b'mayim she'uvim b'soch hakli, meaning in drawn water that's within a kli. So the halacha is tamei l'truma ad sheyitvel. He's actually tamei. He can't have truma until he immerses. Umigzeira shmon asur davar. This is one of the 18 decrees. Over Parakama the Meseches Shabbos Mefarish my time a Gazer Alen. The first parak of Meseches Shabbos, they explain why they made this gezerah. Because what used to happen is they used to immerse, but the caves they immersed in, they were very dirty. So after they would immerse, they would then bathe themselves in mayim she'uvin. People started to think that the mayim she'uvin were what was making them pure. And so they made that gezerah v'shuv gazru al tar. Then they made another gezerah on a totally pure person. The first gezerah was really on somebody who went to the mikveh that day, and then he immerses in mayim she'uvin. The second gezerah was, let's say he's totally pure, not that he immersed that day. He's just a regular tar person. Shenaflu olav shlosha lugan mayim she'uvin, and 3 lugan of mayim she'uvin fell on him. The reason they made that second gezerah was if they didn't make the second gezerah, the first gezerah would not have been able to be maintained. Tosas over here says, Habar rosha v'ruba b'mayim she'uvin v'tar shenaflu hachi garsinam perakama de Shabbos the al tvul yom. Like we just mentioned, that first gezerah is on a tvul yom, somebody who immersed in a mikveh that day. So then dafka gazra would be only in that case where he's a tvul yom did they make it the gezerah when he's immersing in mayim she'uvin. V'chol sheken b'nefila. Of course, if the water fell on him and he's a tvul yom, that's a problem. Avol tar, but if a person is totally tar, he's not a tvul yom, dafka b'nefila. Then the gezerah was only when the water falls on him. V'tayim amari. What's the reason for that distinction? The Ri says tehchmiru b'nefila. The reason they're more machmir when the water falls on him, mishum shemaisa kach because of an incident that's mentioned over there. And Rashi continues, then the question of the Gemara was Chetzio B'biyah. Again, let's say half, he immerses in half and half falls on him. This was the question of Rabbi Yirmiyah, meaning Chetzio B'biyah B'soch HaKli, meaning he immerses in Mayim Shuvin, that's in a Kli, that's in a vessel, the Chetzio B'nefila, and then half of it falls on him, Shenaflu al Chatzi Gufo, Shlosh Lugan, on the other half of his body falls 3 Lugan. So again, that's a question in that situation, is that going to create this impurity as well? And again, the Gemara says Teiko and leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Papa says, Harayamru, they say the following halacha, Balkeri Chol, if a person is a Balkeri, he saw a seminal emission, and he's ill, so he's not able to go to the mikvah, Shenasnu Olav Tisha Kav in Mayim Tar. So the halacha is if they put on him 9 kav of Mayim, of water, so then he's tar, then he's pure. Now Rashi over here explains, Balkeri Chol Tar L'divrei Torah. The case over here is that we're talking about the fact that he's pure in terms of learning Torah. The Ezra Tiken Tvila L'Balikiri and Kodem Shiasku B'Torah. This was a takon of Ezra, that someone who's a Balkeri has to immerse before he learns Torah. Ve'ikalu ala chola b'nesinas teisha kabin. So they had a leniency by a sick person. He doesn't actually have to immerse in a mikvah. They can just put on him 9 kav of water, afilu shuvin, even if it's drawn water, b'meseches brachas. That's in Meseches brachas. Avolataru likonis b'mikdash b'in arboim sub. But in terms of a Balkeri entering the Beis HaMikdash, we have no such leniency. There he requires immersion in a mikvah that is 40 sa. And so in any case, the Gemara continues, Boy Rav Papa, so Rav Papa asks regarding that halacha of 9 kabin for a Balkeri, Chetzio b'tfila v'chetzio b'nesina mai. What if half of that is an immersion and half of that they pour on him? What's the halacha? And the Gemara says Teku. The Gemara also leaves that as a question. Rashi says v'chetzio b'tfila shenichnas chetzio l'socha mikvah. Again, half of his body he enters in the mikvah v'al chetzio nasan tes kabin shuvin, and on the other half he puts these 9 kabin of drawn water. And again, the Gemara says Teku. The Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Echad Omer b'fanei nechtav, v'echad Omer, if one says b'fanei nechtav and one says b'fanei nechtam, so then it's pasul. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Yochanan. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda says that Rav Yochanan says, Lo shanu ela she'ein haget yotzim mitachas yidei shneim. This halach in the Mishnah is only if the 2 people, again, the one says b'fanei nechtav, one says b'fanei nechtam, if they're not both shluchim. Aval get yotzim mitachas yidei shneim. But let's say they're both shluchim. The get is coming from both of them. Rashi explains, she'ein haget yotzim mitachas yidei shneim, she'ein shneim shneim shluchim v'havasa. If they're not both shluchim, they're not both official messengers to deliver this get, they'll have a shnaim sheviu get. Now it's not a case of two people delivering a get. Two people delivering a get was a machlokas earlier in the Masechta, whether you have to say b'fanei nechtav at all. So this case is not two people. El echad heviu, there's one person bringing it. Sarach hamevi lomer fanei nechtav v'zel lo amar. So there's a halacha. The person who delivers it has to say b'fanei nechtav, and that's not happening here. Here you have only one. Here he's only saying half the statement, and some other person is saying the other half. Aval haget yotzi bebezin mitachas yidei shneim. But if the two of them are bringing it, sheshneim adukin bo shneim shluchim, they're both holding it. They're both shluchim to deliver the get. So in that case, we're going to say, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that it is kosher. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tazayin Amid Beis.